At my grandmother's funeral, my Aunt Emily 55F showed blatant favoritism that left the rest of us stunned. She openly praised one cousin while dismissing others, even controlling who got to speak during the service. The tension exploded when a hidden truth about inheritance and loyalty came out. What was supposed to be a day of respect turned into a brutal confrontation that shattered our family's trust forever. I never thought my grandmother's funeral would turn into a stage for family politics, but here we are. Grandma passed away last month, and the entire family gathered at St. Mark's Church for the service. It was supposed to be a quiet, respectful goodbye. Instead, it became the day I realised just how much favoritism can poison a family. My Aunt Emily 55F has always had a way of making things about her. Growing up, she was Grandma's golden child. Everyone knew it, but most of us learned to bite our tongues. She got the best gifts, the most attention, and as adults, she somehow became the unofficial voice of the family. My dad, her younger brother, always rolled his eyes at it, but even he never called her out. That morning, we were all gathered in the church hall before the service. People were hugging, crying, sharing stories. My cousin Jacob 32M came in late, and immediately Emily lit up. "Jacob, honey, there you are. Grandma would have been so proud of you," she said, pulling him into a dramatic hug. Meanwhile, my sister Lily 28F, who had been helping organise the whole event, barely got a nod. I noticed Lily's face tighten, but she stayed quiet. Then came the moment that set everything in motion. During the eulogies, Emily decided she would direct who spoke. She literally stood up at the front of the church and said, "We'll keep it short and meaningful. Jacob, you go first." She didn't even glance at Lily, who had prepared a heartfelt speech. I whispered to Emily, "Lily has something to say too." She shot me the sissy smile and whispered back, "Let's keep it dignified. We don't need everyone rambling." That was it. My blood boiled. But Lily, she looked devastated. She had been so close to Grandma, visiting her almost daily in the nursing home, while Jacob only showed up on holidays. When Jacob spoke, it was fine generic memories about Christmas dinners, how Grandma made the best pies, etc. But when he sat down, Lily stood up holding her speech in trembling hands. Emily actually stood in her way. "Lily, let's not," Emily whispered harshly. "This isn't the time for personal drama." I swear the whole church went silent. Everyone stared, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. My dad finally stepped in, saying, "Emily, let her speak. She was closer to Mom than anyone here." Emily turned red, but stepped aside reluctantly. Lily's voice cracked as she read her speech, talking about holding Grandma's hand in her final days, about the stories Grandma shared that none of us knew. People were crying. But Emily? She just sat there, stone-faced, glaring at me and Dad like we betrayed her. I thought the worst was over, but I had no idea the real explosion was coming because after the service, Emily dropped a bomb about Grandma's that would tear us apart even more. After the service, everyone gathered in the church basement for the reception. There were tables of food, flowers everywhere, and the air felt heavy with both grief and tension. People were murmuring about Lily's speech, some praising her, others whispering about how Emily had tried to shut her down. I was standing near the coffee table with my dad when Emily clinked her glass loudly. "I just want to say a few words," she announced. Everyone turned toward her. My stomach dropped because I knew this wasn't going to be good. She started out polite enough. Mom was a wonderful woman and she cared deeply for her family, but in her final days, she and I had many conversations about who truly understood her values. She paused dramatically, scanning the room. And she was very clear about her wishes. People started shifting uncomfortably. My dad muttered under his breath, "Here we go." Then Emily said it. Mom left the bulk of her estate to Jacob, because she felt he was the one carrying on a family name with dignity. The room went dead silent. Forks literally froze mid-air. Lily dropped her cup of tea and it shattered on the floor. "What are you talking about?" My dad snapped. "That's not the time or place to bring this up." Emily smirked. "It's better people hear it now, rather than whispers later." Mom trusted me to explain. Lily's face went pale. "So you mean all those months I spent taking care of her, none of that mattered?" Her voice cracked. Emily raised her chin. "Of course it mattered, but Mom believed Jacob embodied her legacy best." I couldn't help it, I laughed bitterly. Her legacy, the guy who only visited on Christmas, that's who she thought deserved everything. Jacob, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. "I didn't even know about this," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Aunt Emily, maybe this isn't the right time." But Emily kept going, like she'd been waiting for the spotlight. "It is the right time. People should know the truth, and frankly, some of you have been acting entitled. Mom wanted fairness, and fairness doesn't always mean equal." My dad stood up so fast his chair clattered backwards. "Fairness, you've been Mom's favourite since you were born, Emily. You manipulated her to get what you wanted, and now you're trying to justify it in front of the whole family. This is disgusting." Voices started rising. My Uncle Peter shook his head and muttered, "This is exactly what Mom didn't want fighting." My cousin Sarah whispered to me, "I can't believe she's doing this right now." Meanwhile, Lily was silently crying, clutching the folded copy of her speech in her lap. She looked broken. And then Emily delivered the final dagger. Mom didn't trust everyone with her wishes. That's why she told me everything before she passed. "If you have a problem, take it up with the will." I swear, my dad almost lunged at her. I grabbed his arm to hold him back, but the damage was done. Whatever then thread of trust remained in our family had just snapped in front of a room full of mourners. After the reception started winding down, most of the relatives drifted away, leaving only the core family behind. The air felt thick with tension, like we were all holding our breath, waiting for the next bomb to drop. I followed my dad and Lily into the side room where the chairs were pushed against the walls. Emily lingered near the exit, her arms crossed, smirking as if she'd won some invisible game. Dad finally broke the silence. "Emily, this isn't just rude, it's cruel. You made everything about you today." His voice was low but shaking with anger. Emily tilted her head, pretending to consider his words. I don't see it that way. I was honouring Mom's wishes, and the only one she trusted to make sure the family understood her decision. Lily's voice trembled as she spoke. So all the time I spent helping her, visiting her, listening to her stories, that meant nothing. She looked at Emily with tears in her eyes, her hands gripping the edge of a chair. Emily shrugged. It meant something emotionally, but she trusted Jacob with the future. She believed he would carry on her legacy properly. That's just how it is. I could feel my chest tighten. I wanted to yell, to shake her, to make her understand how utterly selfish she was being. Instead, I said through gritted teeth, you knew exactly how this would make Lily feel. You enjoyed it, didn't you? Emily's expression flickered for a second, but she quickly masked it with a cold smile. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, I'm just telling the truth. Sometimes the truth is hard to hear. Dad slammed his palm against the wall. The truth. You manipulated Mom into giving you the authority to decide who gets what, and now you're acting like a martyr. You've broken our trust, Emily, completely, and you did it in front of everyone. Emily's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Instead, she finally left the room without another word, her heels clicking sharply on the tile floor. Once the door clicked shut, Lily sank into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I just can't believe she'd do this. Mom trusted her the most, and now. Her voice broke into sobs. Dad sat beside her, rubbing her back gently. I know, kiddo, I know, but this isn't your fault. You were there for Mom every single day, and that counts for more than anything Emily thinks matters. I knelt in front of them, still shaking with anger but trying to calm myself. She's always been like this, I said softly. Emily has always had a way of twisting things to make herself the hero. Today she went too far, but we need to stick together, not let her divide us any more than she already has. Lily nodded, wiping her eyes. I just feel betrayed. By her, by the whole family, really. Dad sighed, pulling her into a hug. We all feel that, but the important thing is we don't let her actions change our values. Mom would want us to stay united, not fight over favoritism and inheritance. I realised in that moment just how deep the fracture Emily had created. This wasn't something we could just brush off or forgive overnight. But at least, for now, we had each other, and maybe, somehow, that was enough to start picking up the pieces. The next few days were exhausting. Even after the funeral, Emily's favoritism didn't just stay in that room, it followed us everywhere. Gossip spread fast, as if the church walls themselves were whispering. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years started texting, asking what really happened, and some even took Emily's side. I went over to Lily's apartment one evening to decompress. She was still fragile, curled up on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. I keep replaying everything in my head, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. How could she be like that at Mom's funeral of all places? I sat beside her, frustrated and tired. I don't know, Lily, but you have to remember Emily's always craved attention. The bigger the stage, the more dramatic she gets. This is just her pattern. It's not a reflection of your worth or Mom's love for you. Lily sniffled, but I could see her starting to nod. I guess, but now it's like the whole family has to pick sides. Even Aunt Margaret texted me, saying I should respect Emily's decisions. Respect her decisions. She humiliated me. I groaned. Yeah, that's Emily for you. Always twisting things so she looks like the responsible one, the one who knows best. She's never cared about fairness, only about power. And the sad part, people believe her because she acts so confident. That night, I called my dad. He sounded equally worn out. It's like we're walking on eggshells. Cousins calling, distant relatives asking about the will Emily's fueling the fire, and she doesn't even realise, well maybe she does, how toxic this is. I saw her today, I said. She's already telling people that Lily and I are being dramatic, that we're upset because we didn't get what we wanted. Can you believe that? Dad laughed bitterly. Classic Emily, turning the victims into the villains. I swear, sometimes I wonder how she manages to manipulate everyone without anyone noticing. The more I thought about it, the more I realised how deep the favoritism had cut. Emily had always been the golden child, but now she had weaponized that favoritism in front of the entire family. It wasn't just about inheritance anymore, it was about controlling the narrative, deciding who mattered and who didn't. Aunt Margaret, who had always been neutral, finally pulled me aside at the grocery store. Emily's gone too far this time, she whispered. I don't even know how she convinced everyone Jacob was the right heir. It's unfair. I nodded grimly. Yeah, she's broken the family, and the worst part is, some people still think she's the hero of the story. That night, I stayed awake thinking about Grandma. She'd always valued kindness, honesty, and fairness above all else. And here we were, standing in the ashes of a funeral, watching Emily trample over all of it in the name of favoritism. It felt impossible to fix. But at the same time, I realised something important. As long as Lily, Dad, and I stuck together, Emily's power was limited. We couldn't control what she said or who she manipulated, but we could control how we reacted to it. And that, I realised, was the first step toward reclaiming some of the trust she had destroyed. Tension hit its peak about a week after the funeral, during a small family dinner at Dad's house. Emily had insisted on attending, and I had a bad feeling from the moment she walked in. She carried that smug, self-satisfied look like she owned the room, which, in a way, she thought she did. The table was set with Grandma's china, and the scent of roasted chicken filled the air. Everyone tried to make small talk, but every comment seemed to circle back to the funeral or the will. Emily, of course, took centre stage. So, Jacob, are you planning to manage Grandma's investments yourself? She asked, leaning in over her wine glass. Jacob, visibly uncomfortable, shrugged. I haven't decided yet, probably with an advisor. Emily smiled like she'd just delivered a masterstroke. That's smart. Grandma always said only those who could handle responsibility deserved her trust. I'm just glad she knew who the real leaders in this family were. I finally couldn't stay silent. Emily, enough, can you stop twisting everything into a performance? Mom trusted all of us, not just Jacob. You're making this about you, again. Emily froze like she hadn't expected someone to challenge her. Then she laughed, low and sharp. Oh, please, don't tell me you're upset because you didn't get the memo that life isn't fair. Grandma made her choice. That's all there is to it. Lily, who had been quietly sipping her tea, finally spoke up. You humiliated me at her funeral, Aunt Emily. You controlled everything who spoke, what was said, even how people could remember her, and now you act like it's no big deal. The room went silent. Emily's smile faltered for the first time. Lily, it was never personal. I was just following Grandma's wishes. Dad slammed his hand on the table. No, Emily, it was personal. You turned grief into a competition and chose favourites. Plain and simple. You've been manipulating us for decades, and now it's finally catching up to you. Emily's face turned red, and she opened her mouth to respond, but Aunt Margaret, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. Enough, Emily. You've hurt everyone who truly cared for Grandma. Maybe it's time you realise that being the golden child doesn't mean you get to rewrite reality for everyone else. Emily's shoulder slumped slightly, but she was still defiant. No, Emily, Dad interrupted, standing tall. You've had your say. Now step back and let the rest of us breathe. Your favoritism and arrogance have consequences, and you're going to have to live with them. For the first time, I saw Emily hesitate. Her usual armour of confidence cracked. She looked around the table and realised not everyone was bending to her narrative anymore. Jacob finally spoke, quietly but firmly. I think Mom wanted all of us to remember her together, not divided. I don't want this to tear us apart. Emily swallowed hard, nodding, but no words came. That silence was more powerful than any argument. For the first time in years, Emily's favoritism didn't get her what she wanted. The family, for once, stood united against it. And in that moment, I felt a cautious sense of relief. Maybe, just maybe, we could start to heal from the broken trust she'd caused. The days after that confrontation were awkward, but in a way, also a relief. Emily stopped trying to dominate conversations or assert control. She still attended family gatherings, but her usual smug energy was muted, like the first cracks of humility were showing through. Dad, Lily, and I made a conscious effort to stick together. We spent evenings talking about Grandma, sharing stories that Emily had tried to overshadow, and laughing at memories that didn't involve favoritism or hierarchy. It felt normal for the first time since the funeral. Even Jacob, who had been caught in the middle, seemed more at ease. One afternoon, he pulled me aside while Emily was in the kitchen. Honestly, I don't want all this money or attention, he admitted quietly. I just want to honour Grandma in my own way. Emily's favoritism nearly ruined it for everyone. I nodded. She always wants to be in control, but the good news is, we've called her out. For once, she couldn't steamroll the rest of the family. Lily joined us, wiping her eyes. It's still painful. I can't believe she made us all doubt our own love for Grandma, but at least now, we're on the same side. And we were. Despite the tension, Emily did make a small effort toward reconciliation. She invited us all over for a quiet dinner, and even apologised though in her own awkward way. I realised now maybe I pushed too hard, she said, avoiding eye contact. I just wanted to honour Mom the way I thought she would have wanted. Lily didn't respond immediately, but Dad spoke for all of us. We get it, Emily, but honouring Mum also means respecting each other, not creating winners and losers. Emily nodded, and the moment hung in the air, fragile truths forming. Over the next few weeks, we started rebuilding family rituals. Lily led a small memorial at Grandma's favourite park, inviting cousins and distant relatives. This time, everyone had the chance to speak, share memories, and laugh or cry as they wanted. Emily didn't dominate the event, which was surprising, but also a relief. I realised that favoritism had done serious damage, but it hadn't destroyed us completely. Grandma's lessons of love, kindness, and fairness still lived on in the choices we made as a family. Emily's actions were a reminder of how fragile trust can be, and how easily favoritism can poison relationships, but also how strong we could be when we supported each other. Lily and I shared a quiet moment on a bench after the memorial. Do you think Emily really understands now? She asked softly. I shrugged. Maybe, maybe not, but we've set boundaries, and sometimes, that's all you can do. The rest we leave to time. As we walked back to our cars, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. Broken trust isn't easy to repair, but today, we'd taken the first real step toward healing. For the first time since Grandma's passing, the family felt like a unit again, flawed, yes, but united in love rather than divided by favoritism. A few months later, things had calmed down. Emily still had her moments of subtle control, but she no longer tried to dictate the family narrative. I think the funeral incident had shaken her more than any of us realised. She'd seen the limits of her favoritism, and even if she didn't admit it fully, there was a change in the way she interacted with us. Dad, Lily, and I had made a pact to communicate openly to ensure no one else could manipulate the family again. We leaned on each other through the tension, and in a strange way, it brought us closer. What Emily had tried to break, we had reinforced with trust and understanding. The most healing moment came unexpectedly. One Sunday afternoon, Emily called me. Her voice was tentative, almost unfamiliar. Can we talk? Just the three of us, me, you, and Lily? She asked. I hesitated, wary, but agreed. We met at a small cafe near the park where Grandma used to take us. Emily arrived, carrying a bouquet of daisies, Grandma's favourite. She looked uneasy. I wanted to apologise properly, she began, avoiding our eyes. At the funeral, at the reception, I let my favoritism take over. I see now how hurtful it was. I never intended to make anyone feel less important. Lily, holding back tears, said softly, It was painful, Emily, really painful, but hearing this it helps. Just try not to let it happen again. I nodded. We're willing to move forward, but the trust we lost will take time to rebuild. You need to understand that. Emily swallowed and nodded, finally meeting our eyes. I get it, and I'm willing to try. I really am. I don't want Grandma's memory to be tainted by my mistakes. That moment felt like a turning point. No dramatic gestures, no grand promises, just honest words and a mutual understanding that things needed to change. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Over the next few weeks, Emily made small but significant changes. She let people speak first at family dinners, she acknowledged everyone's contributions to Grandma's care, and she even reached out to distant relatives with genuine warmth instead of superiority. We didn't forget the pain or the favoritism, but we learned how to navigate it together. Emily's actions had left scars, but they also offered lessons that favoritism can destroy relationships if unchecked, and that trust, once broken, can only be rebuilt with patience, humility, and effort. Sitting together one evening, watching the sunset over Grandma's favourite park, I felt a sense of cautious peace. We had survived the storm, faced the fractures in our family, and were slowly, carefully, putting the pieces back together. Favoritism had tested us in ways we never expected, but in the end, love and loyalty proved stronger. Grandma would have been prouder not because of who inherited what, but because we remembered her legacy the right way, united, compassionate, and resilient. It was a lesson none of us would forget.